Sound check. One. Sound check. One.
Welcome, classic rock fans, to another episode of Classic Gig Review, those little strolls down amnesia lane, so to speak. And today we're going back to June the 22nd, 1985 to see the reformed Deep Purple Mark II. I am, of course, talking about the Knebworth Fair, or Mudworth as it was dubbed by those of us who had the misfortune to be there. I went up on, there was a coach trip from Reading to the festival site. I went up with Smith's coaches with my brother and his then girlfriend, who was a huge Deep Purple fan. You know, my first impression, went in, all the merchandise stalls were outside, there were massive queues at the merchandise stalls. I brought a Deep Purple t-shirt which had like a wizard and a hand, with reaching his hand out, holding a crystal ball, and in that crystal ball was that Deep Purple Perfect Strangers logo. It was a pretty crap t-shirt really when I think about it, but there you go. Then of course we go through to the festival site. I remember on the day people saying there was about 150,000 people there, but it's not true. I think there was about 80,000 people actually turned up. And the festival site itself was pretty rubbish, really. The portaloos were awful, and the facilities were dreadful. The queues at the food vans and things were just appalling, just didn't make it worth doing. So just hungry, cold and wet most of the time. There's no doubt about it in my mind that the whole festival experience has improved tenfold since then, but there you go. And also there was a 90 decibel limit imposed upon on the bands. So, you know, if you were right at the back, you know, it must have sounded like somebody breaking wind in a distant room, I guess. But also there were no screens as well. Now, okay, screens weren't really, you know, the order of the day, or, I mean, now you just expect them to be there. But the screens were available. I mean, the screens were used from the sort of mid-70s onwards. I think the Stones had screens from 76 onwards. So why there was nothing there, I don't know. So anyone, again, right at the back would have had trouble hearing and probably seeing anything. Certainly that wasn't our case anyway. We were, you know, we had a fairly good position. Anyway, the bands. There was Alaska, I don't remember at all. I don't know why, I don't remember Blackfoot at all either. Mountain were absolutely superb. They really came up with a lot of energy, and Leslie West, who looked a lot slimmer than his photographs, so I think he was wearing like a red jacket or something. He looked absolutely great and sounded great. UFO were trying very hard, I think, to re-establish themselves. They had this Japanese guitar player who the audience was staring daggers at throughout the set. I mean, he played beautifully, but I think people just wanted Michael Schenker there at the end of. Other bands, of course, were Mama's Boys. They were okay. My brother liked them at the time. Now, Meatloaf, a lot of people hated his set. I didn't hate his set because I actually quite liked Meatloaf at the time, but he came out with his leg in plaster because he had broken his leg previous. But he did a set that comprised of a few songs: Midnight at the Lost and Found, Dead Ringer for Love, Paradise of a Dashboard Light, I think, certainly Bat Out of Hell, I remember, and with the late great Bob Kulick on guitar, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Scorpions, of course. I mean, there were no recordings of the Scorpions set at Knebworth because they wouldn't allow their set to be recorded, but they were high octane, exceptional. They were absolutely fantastic, as they were in their day. They were in their prime, I think, all acrobatics and powerful guitar riffs. And, you know, there's just great songs. Big City Nights, Rock You Like a Hurricane, obviously included in the set. The Zoo, I think. Blackout, possibly, I can't remember. But I just remember them being, you know, a sight to behold. And they needed to be, because by then, you know, the rain had set in. It had rained non-stop. People were really pissed off. I don't think there was any alcohol purchased on site. So people were smuggling in booze and orange juice and things like that. And people were getting thoroughly bored, and the bottles of piss flying everywhere. And to make it worse, not only were we standing there in the pissing rain, between the Scorpions finishing and Deep Purple coming on, we had to wait 2.5 hours, which was just absolutely dreadful, absolutely dreadful. But Deep Purple finally did hit the stage, and they were excellent. Of course, they had to be, let's be honest. I mean, they started off with, what did they start off? I think it started off with Highway Star. They went through a series of Mark II classics. I mean, as I said, remember, this is the first time this band had played together in 10 years or so, but they went through... obviously, there are a few songs from the new album, Perfect Strangers, which I'm a big fan of. Nobody's Home, Knocking at Your Back Door, and the wonderful title track, Perfect Strangers, which Gillan told this tale about a football team called Perfect Street Rangers. What a wag, eh? And obviously we went into Lazy, Space Truckin', which was great to hear, and they ended the set with a series of encores, which included Black Knight and Speed King, which Gillan introduced as being the slowest, most depressing song they've ever played before launching to that, and of course Smoke on the Water. They did a great set. I mean, I read later that the animosity between them was quite fervent before the gig. They had all their porter cabins facing away from each other, so they didn't have to look at one another, but they played a great set. It was I feel privileged, despite the horrible day that it was, the Knebworth Festival. I feel privileged to have seen the Mark II lineup of Deep Purple. And anyway, the misery did not end there. Of course, we tried to get out of the site. Nobody could find the exits. The lighting was incredibly poor. People ended up kicking down the fences. And of course, the portaloos were so bad. Fences that people had spent all day pissing against. So we were wading knee deep through piss to get to our coach in the car park. And when we did get to the coach in the car park, I remember feeling so tired that I fell asleep. I woke up about 2 hours later, only to be told that we hadn't actually left the car park yet. It was a traffic jam that was so bad, nobody had moved. And by that time, my bladder was the size of a football pitch. And there were carry bags full of piss going up and down the coach as well. It was just a horrible, horrible experience. One that I certainly wouldn't want to relive now. But I'll repeat what I said. I do feel privileged to have seen the Mark II lineup of Deep Purple. And we got back I think we got back to Reading the early hours of the morning, and spent the next day recovering from our ordeal. Anyway, thank you for watching. Do click like and subscribe. Check out the Facebook page. I put extra stuff on there all the time. And for those of you who like my musings on music, are interested in extra content and ways to support my channel, please do check out that Patreon. It just leaves me to say thank you for tuning in. Please stay safe. More importantly, please do keep listening.